I will now call on Minister Rob Flack as the sponsor of the bill. Mr. Flack, you have 20 minutes to make an opening statement, followed by 39 minutes of questions from the members of the committee. The questions will be divided into 2 rounds of 6.5 minutes for the government members, 2 rounds of 6.5 minutes for the official opposition members, and 2 rounds of 6.5 minutes for the third party. I will provide reminders of the time remaining during the presentations and questions. Thank you all. We will begin with the Minister, please.
Well, thank you, Chair. Great to be here and really home in London, Ontario. MPP Sattler and I welcome everyone to the Forest City. Great to have Peggy here, my partner in crime. Our neighbor's actually a butt. Our riding's actually a butt, so we always like working well together. And Tyler, welcome here from the capital city and nation's capital, and all my colleagues on the government side of the House. So. Again, honored to be here, happy to be here, and happy to speak about an important piece of legislation, obviously Bill 9, the Municipal Accountability Act that we've all dealt with in the House, and glad that we've come to committee and we're really on the road. So this is, I think, Chair, the first on-the-road meeting, and from here, I believe my colleague told me you're going to Niagara Falls, then you're going to Ottawa, then Thunder Bay, North Bay. There's one, Barrie got cancelled. Whitby, right. So we're going to get a cross-province perspective on this, and it's important that we listen and learn. You know, while this is really not a partisan issue or a piece of legislation, this is something that the province and municipal has been looking for a long, long time. So I think we're there, but again, we want to listen and learn. As elected officials, we all know and understand what's at stake with this legislation. We know that accountability is not optional, it's essential. And coming from the private sector, we all understand what accountability means. We are held to a high standard provincially and federally, as well as municipally, but we're making changes here that are more consistent, and I think that's key. It's the cornerstone of public trust and the foundation for a safe, respectful, and effective workplaces wherever we may work. It is important we get it right. As I said earlier, it's the very reason this committee is traveling across the province. It's important voices from all corners of Ontario be heard, and municipal leaders have been calling for action on this for some time, as we all know. And municipal office is no different than any other. There must be consequences for misconduct. And if passed, this legislation will do just that. It will do what municipal leaders, again, we've done a lot of consultation. This has been going on for some time in terms of communication. They've been asking for this for a long time. Number one, it will strengthen and standardize municipal codes of conduct. Right now, there's 444 iterations. We're going to have one standard right across the province. Number two, it will give clear, consistent authority to integrity commissioners in every community. And number three, it will ensure that the rules are enforced. This is not about politics, as I said earlier. It's about needed and asked for code of conduct legislation. This is the fundamental aspect of these hearings. It's about ensuring that every councillor, every mayor, every member of municipal government, no matter what they serve or who they serve or where they serve, is held to the very same high and consistent standard. A unified code of conduct has been one of the most frequent, most urgent asks from municipalities right across this province. In my short time in the legislature, we hear it every year at AMO. I know those who have sat longer have been hearing it as well, so we're acting. And folks have told us directly they want better tools, they want clear rules, and they want a framework that can work for every municipality consistently across the province. And that we agree. We owe it to the people we all serve to get this legislation right. We've worked closely with our municipal partners in drafting this bill, and we will continue to collaborate with them as it moves through the legislature. Why? Because stronger standards mean stronger communities, and because the people of Ontario deserve nothing less. To give a quick overview of the legislation, we know that municipal governments and members of the council work hard every day to serve their communities with integrity, and that's the vast majority of everyone we work with in municipalities. But we've also heard clearly and consistently from across the province that the current framework we have in place isn't enough, and we agree. Through consultations led by the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing in 2021, and in response to recommendations from Ontario's Integrity Commissioner, the message was unmistakable. Number one, municipalities need a stronger code of conduct. Number two, every elected official deserves a safe and respectful workplace. And number three, the people of Ontario deserve to be governed with professionalism, integrity, and again, accountability. That's exactly what the Municipal Accountability Act is, designed to deliver for the people. If passed, this legislation will strengthen local democracy by introducing a single standardized code of conduct right across all municipalities, a consistent process for the Integrity Commissioner investigations, and a more serious penalty structure reserved for the most egregious violations to act as a real deterrent. These changes would ensure that every municipality in Ontario operates under the same clear rules and expectations so that every resident in every community can trust their local government in working in the same high ethical standard. The legislation would also enable a clear, consistent process, including defined criteria for recommending the removal and disqualification of a member of council. Number two, ensure such penalties are only applied in cases of serious misconduct. And third, mandate training on the code of conduct for all elected officials, helping prevent violations before they occur. And I think this is an important part. When we get elected to the legislature, we're given a training session. I think municipalities need to have mandate training on code of conduct as they get elected or at the beginning of every term. I think it's essential. And most importantly, these reforms would allow councils to do their work without necessary disruption by reducing confusion and inconsistency between jurisdictions. Across all of our 444 municipalities, a standardized code of conduct will mean clearer obligations, stronger ethical alignment, and better governance, which is exactly what Ontarians expect and what they deserve. We all know Ontario's current municipality accountability framework is governed by the Municipal Act of 2021, or 2001, I should say, and the City of Toronto Act of 2006. They also require municipalities to appoint an integrity commissioner, as I think you know, responsible for providing advice and enforcing each municipality's code. Although well-intentioned, this decentralized approach has created a patchwork system right across Ontario. Municipalities with widely varying codes of conduct and inconsistent investigation processes. And I think we've seen it, we've heard the stories, and that's, again, why we're acting with this legislation. This current system, simply put, does not work as intended and has produced challenges right across Ontario. This lack of standardization leads to confusion, limits access to best practices, and undermines public confidence in the fairness and effectiveness of accountability mechanisms. By introducing a standardized code of conduct and a consistent investigation framework, then the Municipality Act would help fix this. It would bring better clarity, improve efficiency, and ensure that every municipality is held at the same high standards no matter where you are in Ontario. Our ministry undertook a thorough review of municipal codes of conduct and integrity commissioner frameworks across Canada, and the goal was really twofold, folks: to identify proven models that could benefit Ontario's system and to avoid the shortcomings and inconsistencies seen elsewhere in Canada. What we found confirmed the need for a more cohesive approach. For example, in BC and the Canadian territories, municipal codes of conduct are not required at all. This creates significant gaps in local accountability. In the provinces where codes of conduct are required, the degrees of standardization varies widely. Newfoundland and Labrador, Alberta, and New Brunswick mandates certain key topics be addressed within the code of conduct. Manitoba takes a value-based approach, requiring that codes establish guiding principles to reflect council standards and expectations. Again, a decentralized approach. And the few provinces like Nova Scotia and Saskatchewan, for instance, have adopted a fully standardized model requiring municipalities to implement a provincially mandated code of conduct. Last week I was in New Brunswick meeting with local government ministers from across Canada, and we had a good meeting, and in one of our sessions, sidebars, we brought this up exactly, and we talked about what different provinces were doing. I explained what we were doing here, and I think we're on the right path, absolutely, comparing what else. Again, we've done a lot of consultations with our provincial counterparts within our municipalities to make sure we got this legislation right. This cross-jurisdictional research gave us valuable insight. It shows what works, what doesn't, and what Ontario could do to lead. It guided us toward a model that balances consistency with local relevance, a framework built for Ontario's diverse municipal landscape, and grounded in proven accountability practices. I'll keep coming back to the word accountability. Our government also consulted extensively with our municipal partners, and again, this is key. The Municipal Accountability Act is the direct result of broad, extensive consultation that reflects the recommendations of the Integrity Commissioner of Ontario as well. We knew from the outset that we had to get this right because the standardized code and consistent Integrity Commissioner framework aren't just policy choices, they're foundational elements of a safe, respectful, and accountable municipal system. But despite their differences, I'll go back and say Ontario, as we know, 404 municipalities, each with its own unique identity. And with each of those identities, as everyone knows, some of our municipal friends like to operate on their own island, so to speak. And I respect that approach. But despite the differences with the municipal accountability codes, they are united by a common goal, and that is to bring consistency right across the province. We're fundamentally agree on the need for action, and this is a good thing. They've asked for support, for clarity, and for stronger framework that upholds the standards of their communities and that they expect. And they've helped shape it. So I want to sincerely thank our municipal partners for their continued collaboration and leadership, especially. And again, when you hear these organizations, you have to be impressed that we've been able to come together. AMO, the Association of Municipalities of Ontario. The Association of Municipal Clerks, Managers, Clerks, and Treasurers of Ontario. The Eastern and Western Wardens Caucuses. The Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, Aroma, Ontario's Big City Mayors, and Ontario's Small Urban Mayors, all are in support of this legislation. Our engagement with these partners has been going well, and the support of this legislation has been absolutely overwhelming. It's the kind of leadership from municipal colleagues that's been instrumental, and when I got into this job just a few months ago, I remember speaking to my predecessor, Minister Klander, and he says, if you do one thing right away, introduce the Municipal Code of Conduct, because that's what AMO is expecting the conference this summer. So I took good advice from a strong and great leader and colleague. We're deeply grateful for their partnership and remain committed to working together to ensure this legislation delivers real, lasting change for the people of Ontario. However, it remains important to hear as many voices as possible, and that's why we're here today, to listen and to learn. So the Integrity Commission, how much time do I have left, Chair?
You have 7 minutes and 50 seconds.
Perfect. I'd like to highlight one voice we knew we needed to hear through this process. And while all the municipalities came together, we thought it was important that the Ontario Integrity Commissioner weigh in on this legislation. As we worked with the Ministry of Municipal Affairs and Housing, we remained focused on one core objective, and that is to getting this legislation right. And that's why last year, Premier Ford wrote to the Integrity Commissioner of Ontario, formally requesting expert advice on how to develop a consistent, province-wide code of conduct framework for all locally elected officials. Specifically, the Integrity Commissioner was asked to A, recommend ways to improve standardization of the Municipal Integrity Commissioner framework, including whether there could be a role for the Integrity Commissioner's office itself, and B, provide guidance on how to improve consistency in codes of conduct for members of municipal councils and certain local boards. We were very pleased with the advice that followed. The Integrity Commissioner's recommendations were thoughtful, balanced, and actionable, and they included 4 primary points. First, creating a standardized municipal code of conduct while allowing municipalities flexibility to adopt additional rules, provided those rules are reviewed and approved by an oversight body. 2, establishing a consistent investigation process for all municipal integrity commissioners. And 3, requiring mandatory code of conduct training for all members of council. Again, we talked about that earlier. And 4, and finally, the Integrity Commissioner also identified a role for his office to provide, her office, to provide advice to municipalities and offer training to municipal integrity commissioners, helping to ensure a uniform approach across the province. And what I've learned as we looked at this, that last point is key, that the integrity commissioners across the province are not always consistent. And that's understandable. Different people, different perspectives. but we need to keep this consistent, and this is where I think Ontario's Integrity Commissioner can play a very big role. And when I sat down with her 6 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago, whatever it was, we talked about this very issue that we'll maybe need to help her staff up somewhat to make sure that we get this right. After reviewing this expert guidance, our government took action and moved forward with the introduction of the Municipal Accountability Act. So, always some concerns, issues, and opportunities, and while we agree there needs to be action, there are concerns. Not everyone agrees on the appropriate responses, and that's good. We don't have to always perfectly agree. Come to the legislature some days and we'll see that we don't always agree. But something of this importance should be debated, and that's why we've taken it on the road. It should be discussed, it should be challenged. Ontario is a proud place of diversity, and that diversity comes with diversity of thought. This committee will hear these concerns, and I'd like to address some of them here and now. The first thing I'd like to address is the concern that the process can be used as a weapon against political opponents. Fundamentally, protecting our democratic process starts with respecting it. Members of municipal councils are elected officials chosen by the people, chosen by their communities. They are often the first point of contact for residents and deeply connected to the people they serve. This is why there must be a clear and strict criterion for removal from office. The Municipal Accountability Act sets out 4 strict criteria that must be met for an integrity commissioner to recommend removal. First, the member has contravened the code of conduct, as we've set out. Number 2, the contravention is of a serious nature. Number 3, the member's conduct resulted in harm to the health, safety, or well-being of individuals. And 4, existing penalties are insufficient to address the conduct to prevent it from ever recurring. The proposed changes would introduce a high bar for removal and disqualification with multiple layers of oversight. The oversight will be at both the local and provincial level to ensure fairness and impartiality is in the process. So I'll overgo the process, and I think we all know it. It's important to walk through these steps. A Municipal Integrity Commissioner conducts an investigation, and if appropriate, recommends removal or disqualification. So that's step 1. That's your local Integrity Commissioner. The Integrity Commissioner of Ontario now weighs in, reviews the case, and conducts a separate inquiry. This has not been done in the past. This is an important element to this legislation. Number 3, if the Ontario Integrity Commissioner concurs with the recommendation, a report is submitted back to that particular municipality. And finally, the Municipal Council then has 30 days to vote on whether to remove and disqualify the member on council. So number 1, Integrity Commissioner locally. Number 2, the Provincial Integrity Commissioner. Number 3, submits a report back to council to decide within 30 days as to whether or not that person should be disqualified or removed. Fundamentally, we need to respect the democratic process, and I think that's what it exactly does. I also understand the challenges some may have with the requirement for unanimous vote, and I want to address that directly. The process outlined balances the need for external influence while preserving democratic accountability at the local level. Furthermore, there are additional safeguards in place, such as the fact that only members of council not subject to the report are not on approved absences and not in conflict of interest would be permitted to vote. We recognize that local governments know their communities best. This framework respects that notion. Municipal Integrity Commissioners will continue to lead local investigations. The Integrity Commissioner of Ontario will provide oversight, consistency, and expert review, not override local authority. And the final decision always rests with the municipal councils themselves, and I understand some people don't fully share this opinion, but this is where the legislation sits today. We've come together, again, with many consultations, many discussions. It's never clear, what do you say, it's clear as mud, but some say the threshold's too high, but I don't fully agree. I think that the way the bill sits today, the Municipal Act will be the result of a process that should leave little doubt in anyone's mind. By the time you get to a vote, there should be little doubt that removal or disqualification, if it's being recommended, be done. When a vote comes, the ultimate arbitrators of a politician's fate, ultimately, like all of us, are the voters. And so to remove somebody without unanimous consent or a vote, I think flies in the face of what the voters did to elect people. And those who are ultimately accountable to the people will have that choice with a unanimous vote. Conclusion. It's important to emphasize the vast majority of locally elected officials serve their communities with integrity, with passion, with professionalism and dedication. I think we can all agree on that. The bad actors, so to speak, that reared these issues are...
10 seconds.
10 seconds?
Sorry, yep.
No problem. I'll conclude there and say, look, I appreciate your time. We've got 444 municipalities. We're going to come together with a standardized code of conduct, and I welcome any questions you may have. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Minister. Sorry, I was listening and not looking at the clock, so apologize for the short notice. We're going to start this round of 6.5 minutes with the government side, so I will look to MPP Saunderson to begin. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I want to thank the Minister for appearing today, and I guess that's a testament to the compelling nature of your presentation when the Chair loses track of time. Anyway, I do want to comment as a former municipal representative of 8 years in the town of Collingwood and the county of Simcoe, when these codes of conduct were first coming in. My community, the town of Collingwood, went through a judicial inquiry as a result of issues that could have been addressed proactively through a much more effective code of conduct, and we've certainly seen an evolution over the last 10 years in that area. But I have to say I applaud the government for moving forward on this. You talk about transparency and accountability. Those are critical aspects of this because really at the end of the day, we're all working together at any level of government for our residents, and as we all know, there's only one taxpayer. So this is, in my mind, about protecting the interests of our taxpayers, making sure they get the government that they deserve, and that the government understands their obligations. So I'm wondering, Minister, if you could just comment on the importance of the transparency and accountability and the need for consistency across the province to ensure that that occurs.
Well, thank you. And through you, Chair, in my own riding, to give you an example, we can all tell these stories. I've seen, again, in my short time in the legislature, local integrity commissioners have to step in with dealing with mayors or councillors or whatever it may be, and I'm sure you saw the same thing when you were in municipal government. And what I've seen even in my own riding is inconsistency. Because I've got, I believe, 12 municipalities in my riding, including part of London, and how each of these municipalities deal with codes of conduct. Again, some of them are weaponized, some councils use them in a not appropriate way, in my opinion. I won't name names, but I think we can all see some of these examples. So when I go back and I look at what I've heard since I've been here, we needed consistency that included accountability. And it's hard to hold somebody responsible if you don't give them the tools to become accountable. So what I would say is, where I think this legislation really works, is the standardization across all 444 municipalities. No exceptions, zero. And ultimately, with the four main components in place, I think you're going to get consistent results. I also think you're going to weed out you'll weed out the weaponized political action. If it's a serious nature, then it's going to follow the process, and if it isn't, it'll be deemed not appropriate. So I think the consistency helps create standardization, and the standardization adds to accountability.
I appreciate that. Thank you. And just on this topic of consistency, I know that former Ontario Integrity Commissioner David Wake, retired justice from the federal court, talks at length, and one of his recommendations was about training for integrity commissioners to make sure that that they're coming, I think, from the same perspective and understanding the intent of the code and how to apply it. And so I'm wondering if you can comment then on the training for the integrity commissioners and ensuring that that consistency also happens across the province.
Well, again, I talked about that in my opening remarks, and it's crucial because, again, let's come back to standardization. When you take a look at some municipalities, larger centers have their own integrity commissioner, right? Smaller municipalities rely on a third party. Some lawyers in this province or some people make a living acting as local integrity commissioners to help that process, and that's great that they have them. But nobody's trained in the consistent way. So I think with the Ontario Integrity Commissioner in place, and Mr. Wake's recommendation has been followed, that training, again, needs to take place. Now, I think we all know that the Integrity Commissioner's office is not overburdened with people. Those of us who have been in there, you don't see hordes of bureaucratic folks sitting around tables and communicating. So we're going to have to make sure that the Integrity Commissioner has the right resources to make sure that that training takes place. But I don't think there's a better person that could conduct that training, and it's mandatory. Again, if we're going to hold people accountable and make sure this legislation works, each municipality has to take the training, full stop. And there's no better person to do it than the Ontario Integrity Commissioner. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Those are my questions.
Thank you. There's a minute and a half left. Which two want to go? MPP Babikian, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Minister, for your thorough and detailed presentation of the bill. As it was mentioned, we have seen some bad apples taking advantage of our laws and breaking the laws because they know there is no impunity.
1 minute.
So my question is, can you tell us about the input the municipalities had in shaping this bill?
Okay, well, as I outlined, there was extensive consultation done, has been for a few years now, and I come back to AMO, who represents all the municipalities in Ontario, including Toronto, I might point out, who's rejoined AMO back in January. So when you talk to Robin Jones, its president, we talked extensively to AMO, the big city mayors, and I don't think we could have done more consultation with our municipal partners than we've done. And again, I come back to Minister Calandra when he said to me, if you do one thing, make sure when you get to AMO you have this ready, because they want it and they want it quickly. So we've done exactly that, and again, it's across political lines. This is not a partisan issue, in my humble opinion, and we've consulted, we've listened, we've learned, and we're on the road here, and I think we're on the right track.
Thank you very much. I'll now go to the official opposition for 6.5 minutes. MPP Sattler.
Thank you very much, Chair, and thank you, Minister, for making the long trek from St. Thomas to London for okay. But I wanted to start out by saying that there are a number of provisions of this bill that are very, very critical in ensuring that municipal councils are safe and respectful places for women. I want to recognize the advocacy group, the Women of Ontario Say No, who have been strongly pushing for changes to municipal accountability. And this bill goes some way in terms of the training that will be provided to preempt the kinds of egregious behaviors that have made municipal councils very chilling places for women to want to serve in elected roles. So I appreciate those provisions of the bill. You talked, however, in your opening remarks about the need to ensure consequences for serious misconduct. And one of the concerns, you've addressed this, is whether the bar is set too high in this bill to ensure meaningful consequences for really egregious behavior. And you know, the bill requires an investigation by a municipal integrity commissioner, who then refers, if there is a view that that removal is justified, it's referred to the Ontario Integrity Commissioner. A report will come back to council, and then there has to be the unanimous vote of council. And a lot of people have pointed out that this risks politicizing the process. It was one of the reasons why AMO had been advocating for a judicial process to remove it from the political arena. But one of the implications of that process is that if there is a single voice on council who says, no, we think that this is very egregious, but it doesn't justify removal, there are no penalties at all. There are zero consequences for that behavior. And that is very concerning. So I wondered if you, Minister, could address why you have made it an all or nothing. It's, the behavior can either result in removal or there are no consequences whatsoever after the vote goes back to council and if council votes no.
Well, thank you, Peggy. That's the question of the day, frankly. That's what, if there's been many questions about this legislation and the debate, we all agree that we need to have a municipal code of conduct. We all agree with the steps, but it's the unanimous consent at the end that has people, debating this issue, and I can argue both sides. I could also argue that not having unanimous consent can be weaponizing as well. People can continue with egregious behavior and not have, they can have supporters on council and there's little packs and whatnot to go through. So you risk that. But ultimately, I guess, we all get elected by the people that we serve. And what we feel is ultimately important is that if there's a unanimous consent, that's speaking on behalf of all the people in that municipality. But ultimately, the ultimate decider will be the people. And if councillors vote for somebody to support them that shouldn't have been in or should be out or don't follow the rules for whatever reason, then they also are accountable. Think about if you are a councillor that supports somebody who's gone through the process and the Ontario Integrity Commissioner deems this person unfit to stay in office and they support that person in a vote. Is there not some accountability with them as well in the next election? It is, and it's a debate. It's a good debate. But I really believe at the end of the day, it's a good process all the way through. But again, we're here to listen. That's why we're here. And debate this issue. And that's where it sits today. But glad to hear your comments on it.
I thank you for that response. But I'm very concerned that behavior that is sent to a municipal integrity commissioner who says that behavior justifies removal, and that goes to the Ontario Integrity Commissioner, and the Ontario Integrity Commissioner says that behavior justifies removal. It goes back to council. If there's a single voice on council who says no, there's no consequences. There's not even the 90-day, suspension of salary. There's nothing. There's, no penalties for that behavior. And I think that this is a deep, hole in this legislation, that there is nothing that can be imposed following that process for very serious behavior that two integrity commissioners have said warrants removal.
So again, I respect your thoughts. I really do. But removing someone from elected office is a pretty serious consequence. How often has it been done in Ontario? I don't have the answer to that. So again, we're all accountable, and those on council are accountable for each other, really, ultimately, as well, in how they act. And if somebody votes for somebody who's done or votes against removing somebody who's done an egregious action, ultimately, they're accountable as well too. So it behooves all of us, all councils, to act in a united, strong way. And I can understand your point, but where we sit today, it is a serious nature, then there needs to be serious consequences, and removal of office is as serious as it gets.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to MPP Watt.
Thank you, and thank you for that presentation, Minister. I'm happy to be here and participate in this. I agree, it is very important. It is a nonpartisan thing. I think everyone supports the notion of this, and people do expect for us to address it and get it right. So I appreciate having that opportunity. I agree with your concern, so I won't go on that too much. But I do worry about the politicization of it when it gets to that third spot with the council vote. So I'm wondering, what are things that we can do to help possibly prevent us from ever getting to this point? So I'm wondering from the minister, should municipal candidates be required to submit a criminal background check as a part of their nomination process?
I got to be honest with you, I don't know if they have to today or not. Would Brian, is Brian there? Is the Assistant Deputy Minister on? So Casper, can I turn that over to you? Do they have to do that today? Obviously not, if you're asking the question. Casper, are you there? Not there? So again, your question is, should they have a criminality check before they?
Correct.
No.
Okay.
Did you hear the question? Criminality checks. Don't have to do it municipally. Is he not there? Not able to come on?
I can see him on my laptop. We're just trying to get him on the screen over there and can't get his body over.
You can or cannot?
I can see that he's trying to speak, but I just can't.
Pardon? No.
They put my mic on, I'm not sure why, but we have visually. Casper, do you want to speak? Test, test.
Can you unmute him? Sorry. Yeah.
Ask another question. Casper, are you there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Did you hear the question, Casper, that the minister had asked?
Sorry, can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
With respect to criminal checks for people running municipally, do we need to do that in this province? If so, why? And if not, why?
Underneath underneath, they do not need to submit a background check, is what my understanding is.
So your question then is, why not have it? So I would committee and make some recommendations as you come through if you think that's fitting. I can't think of, I apologize, I didn't know that was the case.
Sure. Thank you, I appreciate that. Now, with the process of removal, I understand why it does need to be high. Having the local integrity commissioner, then the provincial, and then back to a council vote. But we've chatted already about running the risk of it being politicized one way or another. Whether that's one person who wants to oust someone or people who want to make sure that that person stays there. And you mentioned, you know, when it comes to recommendations from 2 different integrity commissioners, that it seems pretty reasonable that everyone would understand that that's probably the right thing to do, is to vote in favor. But we've seen examples just in our own legislation. The Minister of Health said that she disagrees with the opinion of the Information and Privacy Commissioner on a bill that we've been debating. So I just worry about that high threshold of everyone must be there and it must be unanimous. Again, I understand why it needs to be high, but it almost seems like a ceiling that may never be hit, and then the onus is then put on the voters. So I'm just wondering why the unanimous council vote instead of a judicial process?
Well, again, I could make the argument, and people have made the argument, by having it not unanimous can be politicized as well. And I think we can see examples where that could take place and has taken place locally in municipalities. Number 2, again, I think I would emphasize, when you take a look at unanimous consent, this is a very serious decision being made. And you said it. You don't, all people don't always agree with public commissions. So ultimately it's the people that are, and remember, and I would say this, we're fortunate to live in this country, in this province, where democratic institutions are respected, and ultimately who's the most accountable? Governments, yes, but it's the people. The people are accountable to electing the people they think represent them most and what best, and when they don't get it right, there's terms of office that they get them to redecide. So again, that again is a big reason why we've stuck with unanimous consent.
You have 2 minutes left.
2 minutes? Okay. So I guess I'll go kind of back to my first question. If we were to possibly submit amendments or, you know, relook at getting something like background checks that go into it, do you think that there are any criminal offenses that, if recently committed, should bar someone from being allowed to run for office?
You know, again, this committee, this is why you're on the road, this is why we're listening, local deputations and what people think, and obviously our ministry will take back any recommendations this committee brings. That's the job of how this government works, how any government works. You know, should people be allowed to run if they've had a criminal background? If they've done the time, if If they've made recompense, why not? Like I think that's part of the freedoms we have in this country. Back to your original point, the criminal checks, again, if you have recommendations that you think can help improve this legislation, we're obviously happy to consider it and take it into that consideration when we bring it back to the legislature in the fall.
30 seconds if anybody wants to use it.
No, I'll finish there. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Thank you very much. We'll now go to the second round. And government side, MPP Bailey, please.
Well, thank you, Chair, and welcome to Southwestern Ontario and London in particular. Minister, thank you for your presentation this morning. I won't belabor the point because I've had it brought up to me a number of times about the issue about the unanimity, so I think we went around that, we chased that around quite a few times, so I'm not going to go there again. So I think there's the old adage, government and the people get the government that they deserve, so people really need to be really cautious. Maybe this is one thing that will come out of this. The electorate really need to look at who they do elect when the election do come around. So if this legislation is passed in whatever form, at the end of the day, could you go into some detail about the timing and what the implementation would we be looking at as far as the implementation of this, whatever bill finally comes through the ledge?
Well, first of all, we've got to do our due diligence and go through committee, as we will this summer. We'll obviously be speaking about it at AMO in Ottawa in August. We come back in the fall. Hopefully we get it right and pass the legislation, and then the heavy lifting begins. And as I think everybody knows, and again, I'm not a municipal creature, don't come from it, but if you want to apply to run for council, whatever position, you have until May the 1st to decide and then announce your intentions. So what we're hoping for is that this legislation, the implementation of it, and ultimately the training that would take place after an election is in place prior to May 1st of next year. So I think that's an important deadline because it gives everybody considering taking a run at municipal council or trying to get re-elected understands what the municipal code of conduct is before they submit their intention to run. So I've talked to the Integrity Commissioner about this, and again, I come back to the point we have to make sure we give the available resources to that office to make sure they can get this in place by May the 1st of next year.
So another question, I guess more of a statement, but you can reply. But it would be your hope, and I suppose all of us in government at the end of the day, that these steps, this bill, would help to prevent misconduct in the first place, so that we wouldn't probably have to look at the very isolated cases, maybe, that we would have to look at suspension or removal. Would that be?
Yeah, again, I come back to the training. I think the training is key, not only for council, but for the local integrity commissioners, because again, there's inconsistencies throughout the province. And so what was the final part of your question, Bob? Sorry?
Oh, that would lead to less misconduct in the first place, and then the very few times we would have to implement this would be hopefully severely limited. That would be our hope.
Yeah, well, hopefully if people have taken the training and understand the consequences thereof. That being said, I think we have to remember the vast majority of councillors that serve in municipalities across this province do a stellar job. Yep. They act with integrity, they act with professionalism and dedication. The small few who don't, the bad apples, so to speak, we now have an ability to deal with it directly. And I think training is important, always is, always has been, always will be. But ultimately, getting this in place before the next municipal election, I think, is key, so people know what they're getting into and the accountability that comes with any office you serve in this province.
You've got 2.5 minutes.
I'll yield to Mr. Sandhu.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Minister. We appreciate your presentation, and thank you to all the members for being here. As you mentioned in your speech, that accountability is not optional. It is essential. And this legislation will just do that, what municipal leaders across Ontario have been asking for. And this is not about politics. It is about protecting the people. And it is about ensuring that every councillor, as you said, every mayor, every member of municipal government, no matter where they serve, is held to the same high standard. So maybe if you can shed more light on how this bill will help municipalities strengthen transparency and accountability at the local level.
Well, again, I think, let me come back to why we're doing this. Because municipalities, 444 of which have asked for this. So this is not a government approach that we need to do this. We agree, but people have come to us for a number of years now to say, bring this legislation into place. And we've acted. And we've talked to virtually anybody and everybody that we could to try and get it right. And again, we're being accountable by taking the show on the road and listening to local deputations to make sure that we do get it right, that we are getting it right. The big bone of contention thus far, I think, is obviously the whole notion of unanimity, and everyone has to be at that whole vote. That seems to be the one big issue, but I think we've got it pretty well right. And when you take a look at accountability, and I want to come back to this, it's a big burden placed on, we all know we're elected, we're accountable to the people that elect us. And part of that accountability is how we conduct ourselves when we're in the chamber, when we're in a municipal council meeting, wherever it may be, in public, we are accountable. And how we vote, what we vote for, who we support, how we do it, we get judged every 4 years or whenever the next election is. And ultimately, this act puts accountability in place to make sure that we do act justly, properly, and then if we don't, the consequences can be very, very serious, and ultimately, the people of Ontario will decide their fate.
Thank you. We'll now move to the official opposition, MPP Sadler.
Yes, thank you very much, Chair. Minister, you talked about your predecessor, Minister Calandra, and his urging you to bring forward this bill in your new role. And the Bill 9 is essentially identical to the legislation that Minister Calandra had previously introduced back in 2024. But we know that there was an earlier iteration of a municipal accountability bill that was kind of developed by a third Minister of Municipal Affairs, Minister Clark. And that bill was drafted and circulated for consultation. The NDP had a briefing on that bill back in 2021. That bill, as I understand, was the outcome of a very extensive consultation process that had been undertaken by the government in 2021. And what's interesting to me is the number of differences between that draft bill from 2021 as a result of the extensive consultation that had taken place, and Bill 9, the bill that we have before us today. And I just wanted to highlight some of the changes, and the reason I'm doing this is because I'm curious to know what the internal process was that led to this very, different iterations of this municipal accountability bill. So the 2021 draft bill would have allowed municipal integrity commissioners to apply to a judge to have a councillor removed if there's serious misconduct. The 2021 bill would require a judge's decision to remove a member of council. The 2021 bill included provisions to allow councils to delegate the power to impose penalties to the Municipal Integrity Commissioner. The 2021 bill allowed councils to recover the costs of inquiry from a member of council if misconduct is established. The 2021 bill allowed councils to impose existing available penalties in addition to whatever the judge decided to do with regard to removal. So these are all provisions that were included in the 2021 draft that are missing from the current bill. So could you just give us a sense of what happened? Because we know that AMO, for example, was strongly supportive of the application to a judge for removal. And those other provisions were also strongly supported by, key stakeholders in the municipal sector.
Well, thank you. I guess number one, I would say I wasn't part of those changes or discussions, but I will say, and I do know, that continued consultation took place after the 2021 iteration or version of the bill. And when all was said and done, and again, maybe I'll turn it over to Assistant Deputy Minister Hall, but again, I want to emphasize that we just didn't unilaterally change these things. We did consult consistently with AMO, with the Association of Municipal Managers, Clerks and Treasurers of Ontario, with the Eastern and Western Wardens Caucuses, the Northwestern Ontario Municipal Association, NOMA, the Federation of Northern Ontario Municipalities, FONOM, the Rural Ontario Municipal Association, ROMA, Ontario Big City Mayors, and Ontario Small Urban Mayors. So this was done in consultation with them. And Casper, can I turn it over to you to make a comment? Is he still there? Or we lost him again? Do we have to go through this again?
Could I just move on to another question?
It's your call. It's your
Okay.
question.
I actually want to go back to the Ontario Integrity Commissioner, who you also consulted with in the September 2024 report. And you talked about some of the recommendations of the Integrity Commissioner that are reflected in Bill 9. But there were other recommendations of the Ontario Integrity Commissioner that are not included in Bill 9, and I wondered if you could speak to those recommendations. The first is that we know that there is a lot of variability in the expertise of municipal integrity commissioners. So the Ontario Integrity Commissioner, David Wake, had recommended that there should be a registry of all municipal integrity commissioners to provide a resource for the public and for municipal councils. Commissioner Wake had also recommended that there should be a central database of all completed inquiries, which again would provide a useful resource for the public and for, to share best practices. And third, he had recommended that there be some mechanism to support smaller municipalities with the considerable costs that would be involved in going through two sets of investigations, first at the municipal level and then at the provincial level. So can you just let us know why those recommendations are not reflected in Bill 9?
Well, I think the, pardon? Well, I think the primary recommendation that David Wake, Integrity Commissioner Wake, gave us was the oversight that they would provide into the whole Code of Conduct implementation, and secondly, training. And approving or in training people who are conducting the local integrity commissioner role, I think is something that we've not done well in this province. Too many inconsistencies in that training, which will be done now by the new integrity commissioner and her office, is crucial to the success. So again, I want to emphasize that all of this legislation.
Okay, MPP Watt, please, for the third party.
Thank you. I have three quick questions. So I'm referring to 160.0.1, specifically 3 and 4. Can the minister quickly clarify that if a complaint is raised during an election period, since there are specific rules for election times, how can we ensure that bad actors don't get off scot-free on a technicality?
I'm going to pass that one over to Assistant Deputy Minister Casper Hall, please.
Thank you. My name is Casper Hall, the Assistant Deputy Minister of the Local Government Division. with respect to your question, that issue could be raised after the election period. So within that period of time before the election period, in order not to politicize the issue, that issue could be raised down the road.
Thank you. So additionally, one of the provisions of the bill states that the Minister of Municipal Affairs and Housing may make regulations prescribing content requirements, standards, and process requirements for recommendations. And since we all agree that there is a need for transparency and to have all the rules be above board and across the board, can the Minister speak to what sorts of regulations we can expect to see given our shared understanding of accountability and transparency?
Well, I would say there's no specific regulations as of yet, but again, I'll turn it over to Caspar as to where and why regulations could come forward. Caspar?
Yeah, again, my name is Caspar Hall, the Assistant Deputy Minister of the Local Government Division. The first thing is these committee hearings and then, of course, potential passage of the bill pending the legislature. Then there would be enabling regulations which would standardize the code of conduct for all 444 municipalities, as well as a process for municipal integrity commissioners. That would be consulted on through a process, and as the minister has noted, the goal would be to get that in place prior to the nomination period for the upcoming municipal elections.
Thank you. And just one of the themes of today has been the topic of the controversy around unanimous versus non-unanimous consent on the votes. So I'm wondering, since the minister did talk about consultation prior, who provided the idea of the unanimous vote to be the threshold?
I can't specifically say who. I wasn't in the ministry at the time. I can find out, but I think it would have been a unanimous, or not a unanimous, but would have been it's been discussed in the past. This is not a new notion, should it or shouldn't be, judicial or not. So I'll have to get back to you. I can't specifically say who or where.
Thank you.
3.5 minutes remaining. 3.5 minutes remaining, if you wish.
Oh, 3, okay. I guess just on a final note on that part, you know, should the vote decision-making power not be given, should it be given to fully independent third parties like the integrity commissioners instead of, you know, colleagues that potentially have those long-standing relationships?
So not use the integrity commissioners?
No, should the power to remove be given to a third party rather than to the council who have potential biases when it comes to that removal?
Again, I've heard the debate, I've heard the dialogue both sides. I struggle with that one a little bit because ultimately, again, I come back to the accountability that people have, that we have as politicians, as public servants are with the people. And I just don't think judicial or integrity commissioners should hold that power. Ultimately, it should be back to council, back to Parliament, back to the legislature, wherever it may be, to make those decisions, and ultimately we're all accountable on the votes that we cast. So I would again emphasize that I think this legislation goes a long way, and yes, you can argue politicization near the end of the vote, but you can argue it on both ways. If it can be politicized if it's unanimous, it could be politicized if it's not unanimous. Groups get together. So that was the debate in terms of coming up with this recommendation or part of the legislation. And again, if we're going to be accountable, we're ultimately accountable to the people, and if people don't vote in a way that the people of their municipality don't agree with, they're going to be judged accordingly in the next election. And ultimately, I think that's how we all have to be accountable, and that's the people have the final say. And a third-party review doesn't respect that notion.